Hello guys, Hyeperion here, back with another video, and yes, I am leaving, but not yet. I still have a few videos for you guys. Today's one we are taking a look at the Agent of Oryx weapons, which all recently got reworked. I won't be covering the other pieces as weapons are pretty much what define the set, and I covered the abilities in another video. So to get it out of the way, to get an Agent of Oryx weapon or anything related to the Agent of Oryx stuff, you need to stack up shards. The shards of Oryx grant you a weapon, the shards of the intern gets you an ability, the shards of the door warden grant you an armor, and finally the shards of the advisor get you the rings. These shards are acquirable in different ways, all related to events. Anyways, back to the weapon reviews. This will be in a tier list format as I think these items are pretty well defined in a tier. The S tier goes to the top of the range weapons, items that are always great to main, or just the most powerful weapon of its category damage wise. A lot of the Oryx 3 white bag weapons end up here. The A tier goes to good weapons. These weapons can also be mained. They are great in a lot of situations, but there's just better items in the S tier. Or maybe these weapons have a slight drawback to them which put them down to the A tier. This is where I say some of the Oryx 3 tops go and where a lot of the general staple items are. B tier means they are alright, better than wine cellar tops. It's where Lost Halls tops go or mid-game untiered items like the Cutlass. Pretty decent items. C tier goes to wine cellar tops, the base mid-game items of the game. These items can be used for all content. They're just average, not terrible but not great either. D tier is worse than wine cellar tops. The weapons here are most likely a little too niche and you probably want to use a wine cellar top over them pretty much all the time. The E tier is bad. You only want to use this weapon for fun. It'll go to the vanity items or just poorly designed items which aren't good for combat in almost all situations. Oh, why is it superior here? Because I don't have it, which means it sucks. So let's get to it. First up we've got the Blade of the Assailant. The idea behind this weapon is that it does decent damage with a high rate of fire, which is balanced by reduced range and slow shot speed. This weapon was really good before the patch, dealing a fair bit more damage than Tier 14 Katana, but at the cost of slower shot speed and reduced range. It has received a nerf this late patch. It is now fully outclassed by the Tier 14 Katana, but it's still a fair bit better than the Tier 13 Sadamune, so the damage output of the Katana is still decent. Remember, the Oryx 3 weapons are a huge jump from Lost Halls tops. They make a lot of white bags in the game useless. They're on another level for absolute endgame players. Anyways, the Blade of Assailant is still a decent weapon after the nerf. Not the best, but you can see it's a decent DPS option. The reduced range combined with the low shot speed may turn you away from this item, but there are perks to this, like running up to an enemy to create stacked shots, or when running away from an enemy you get a solid increase in range, being about 8 tiles. That's very good for kiting. The Blade of Assailant goes to the B tier. I'd call it a slight upgrade to the Sadamune. Next up we got the Bounty Hunter's Dagger. This was my favourite item in the game, but now it's got a full overhaul. This item shoots out 3 shots at once, at a reduced fire rate. It still has a trait of passing through obstacles which is nice when event gods appear and there are a lot of trees in the way, or hiding behind rocks and trees while taking out gods. For a 3-shot weapon, the range to hit all shots is surprisingly nice. Most weapons with a shot spread have bad true range to land all shots. Say the Tier 14 bow, it has 7 range, but to land all 3 shots, you need to be about 3.5 tiles away. Any further and your damage output drops hard. This dagger has 5.3 range. The true range is about 5. That's alright. Tier daggers have just 5.6 range. Let's check its damage output. It appears to be somewhat of a bridge between the Tier 13 and Tier 14 dagger. If you have the Tier 14 dagger, then don't use this item. This weapon is a solid option for damage for most enemies with the added perk of passing through obstacles. This also goes to the B tier. Not too shabby. Onto the Henchman's Claymore. This item was disgusting before. If you got it, you most likely didn't keep it for long. You probably thought it was a cursed item reducing your luck. That's a good call. It dealt bad damage and it had nothing good going for it. But now it's been changed a lot. It went from 1 shot to 3 shots, with an increased 110% rate of fire. It's comparable to a pixie sword. Both of these items have a spread and about the same max range. The main difference lies in the true range and the shot speed. The Pixie has about 1.8 true range, whereas the Claymore has about 2.5 true range. Sounds like a small difference, but it's pretty significant. The slow shot speed is nothing too important, it just means more range when kiting in this case. Let's check its DPS out. It's alright, it even beats out the great Sword of the Colossus up until 5 defense. Great damage output with solid true range for a melee? Good stuff. Overall I'd probably call it a lightly watered down version of the Pixie. Remember, ST items are getting changed left and right and I'm sure the tradable Pixie will be getting a nerf, which means it's an indirect buff for the Claymore. This item goes to the A tier. Very solid damage output. I know it's a high placement but I'd say it's like an A-, because it still has low true range. It's a swap out and swap outs are a little more difficult to rank. And I'm putting this here with a Pixie nerf in mind, which if you didn't know is an incredibly powerful situational swap out that belongs in the S tier. Next up is Oppressor's Staff. This was one of the worst weapons in the game. The shots were horribly slow and wavy, and the damage output was subpar. Now the shots are better, they're significantly faster, and the damage output of this weapon has increased a solid amount. It is between the tier 13 and tier 14 staff. In fact, it beats the tier 14 staff now at moderate defense. That's impressive since the tier 14 staff is one of the best weapons in the game. So if you're using this weapon, you know you're doing solid damage. The speed drawback is a little yikes, but you can easily get used to it. And as a bonus, the shots also pass through obstacles. After trying it around in all sorts of dungeons, I felt I can land shots easily anyways. I find it to be an upgrade to the tier 13 staff. The Oppressor staff goes to the A tier. Good damage, slow shot speed. It is like the old symbiotic Ripper. And you may be thinking, what? You're comparing this to the tier 14 staff? Well, not really. That weapon belongs to the S tier. It's on another level still. Onto the Tyrant's wand. This weapon hasn't changed much. Actually, over time it got a relative nerf. All wands have got a fair damage buff, but this item has remained the same. What it does is shoot 4 shots out in a spread similar to the Pixie Enchanted Sword, but at a pretty low shot speed. As a spread weapon, it has only 2 range, which is very bad for a rogue class, specifically a wand class. Wands are known to be the longest range items in the game. Anyways, let's check it on the DPS calculator. It does a lot more damage in the Fallen one than the tier 14 one up until 30 defense. That's nice. Also, if you bring in the Lumiere, which is another slow shot weapon, that weapon destroys the Tyrant one in all ways except it doesn't pierce. I don't really know what to think of this weapon. The only place you can use this item effectively is in dungeons where you can be within 2 tiles of an enemy on a rogue class, and he has slow shots. That's not many places, and you may be thinking it's a spread weapon with piercing capabilities, so you can hit a lot of mobs nicely. You can, but I still think a tiered wand is better for clearing multiple enemies, as you don't need to be so close to deal effective damage. In terms of being a very strong damage swap out when given the opportunity, this item goes to the blurry B tier. You got to keep in mind that it only beats the other ones up until 40 defense, so you often need Curse and Armor Break to effectively use this. Not really a fan of this item, but its sheer damage output carries it to this tier. Finally, we have the Predator Bow. This item was crazy powerful, easily being the best bow in the game, destroying all other bows in damage output. It was pretty much unfairly powerful compared to the other bows. What this bow does is it shoots 3 shots forwards and 2 shots behind you. We mainly care about landing 3 shots forward, which when you do, even after the nerf, still beats the Void Bow and tier 14 bow by a fair amount, making this still the strongest bow in the game. Its true range is about 2.5, which is a fair bit lower than the tier 14 bow's 3.5 range, so there's that to consider. But overall, there's a lot going for this weapon. It's still top tier damage when you can approach the enemies closely, and in a chaotic place like the Godlands, you got shots to cover your back, and it serves as a staff of extreme prejudice when you can sit on enemies, easily doing one of the highest damage outputs in the game. This item is S tier, a great swap out, a very powerful one. So that's it. This item's got pretty balanced, although I'm not a fan of the katana nerf, and I wish the dagger was a little bit stronger. But then again, all of them are decent at worst, so that's pretty nice. So now you don't have to worry too much when choosing which full Agent of Oryx set you want to go for. Anyways, I hope I helped you decide what item you want to go for. I know I'm pretty much a dead man speaking now, but I got a couple more uploads coming your way. A Bard UPE, a PPE failed compilation by my man Drake, and maybe a goodbye video. Thanks for watching and be sure to subscribe. We're almost at 20,000. Wow, it'd be cool if I hit that number before I leave.